The county's beach side remains fragile, in some places vulnerable, everywhere else, due to the extreme and unprecedented erosion that we've experienced over the last 8 years.
Flagler County Administrator Heidi Petito referring to the county's ongoing state of emergency because of the condition of the shoreline since 2016.
The county's dunes has caused a continuous state of emergency since the arrival of Hurricane Matthew 8 years ago.
Continuing on with the history of what we've experienced, Flagler County, the emergency declaration has been in place since October of 2016, starting with Hurricane Matthew and prolonged by partial repairs and additional damage from Irma, Dorian, Ian, Nicole, Milton, numerous nor'easters that don't come with names, but they wreak havoc on our coastline.
While there have been repairs in the south part of the county, the north portion still needs attention, and Petito explains that will take money to rebuild delicate areas of the county's beach side.
When we look at this, really the only path forward for Flagler County to be able to exit the emergency condition would be to put in place some sort of local funding ordinance or option.
Flagler County Commission Chair Andy Dance further explains how risky the situation has gotten.
We've seen what happens with saltwater inundation at Washington Oak State Park. The entire ecosystem changed, the oak trees died, and the hammock is what it is because of the natural environment that's there. So a massive or a dune break of any size that brings that saltwater intrusion into the landscape will wipe out the atmosphere, the ecosystem.
Flagler County Commissioner Greg Hansen points out how the flood maps are interpreted.
These are not our flood maps. We didn't dream this up. FEMA has all the flood. You can go look up what kind of a breach and how it'll affect and who's going to get flooded. It's all there, and they're not our maps, but we're using them.
While it's been recognized some residents are at odds about who should be paying for the repairs, the Flagler County Commission hasn't settled into a funding method. A resolution still needs approval on December 2nd, along with many other legal steps. If there is approval, the funding change wouldn't be implemented until the 2026 fiscal year budget, beginning October 2025. For Flagler's Local Morning News, I'm Karen Johnson.
Good morning, Flagler County. I'm Rich Carroll. You're listening to Flagler's Morning News on Wednesday, November 27th.
Over the weekend, deputies handled 613 calls for service, conducted 155 traffic stops, and made 15 arrests.
Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley reflects on crime activity over the past weekend.
Two of the notable arrests included an argument that turned into a dispute, and one of the suspects actually broke into a home, picked up a chair, and threw it at a victim. The victim then fled and locked his bedroom door, but the suspect broke the door and brandished a pocket knife. He went to jail for burglary and multiple other felony charges. And another teenager was arrested for making threats to kill on social media. The 14-year-old male threatened harm to another juvenile using Instagram because of an alleged money that was owed to him. Parents, talk to your kids. We don't like arresting them, but you need to explain to them that making threats is not a way to solve any dispute. It will only get you arrested.
This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, US 1 St. Augustine, here to wow you.
I still think we probably could have made a better decision, obviously, in retrospect, than we did. And the costing to me was always troubling.
Outgoing Flagler County Commissioner David Sullivan giving his thoughts on how the Flagler County Sheriff's Office took shape during his tenure.
During last week's Friday Free-for-All, Sullivan lamented about how the $20 million operations center took shape.
There were a lot of, where should we put the building? I was always to add on a wing to the county courthouse, because if you look at it, you could have put a wing on there, and that could have been, but there was a whole bunch of information about what the costs were going to be and so on and so forth. And I had a lot of discussions with Frank Meeker at the time, and former sheriff.
Sullivan says environmental issues at the sheriff's office old operations center housed in a refurbished hospital didn't help.
I still think we probably could have made a better decision. And the costing to me was always troubling, besides all the problems with the hospital and, what it was used for previously and all that. So it was enough to get my blood boiling enough to say, well, we've got to get in there and clean it out. And remember, Barbara did have to pay some fines for action during that period.
From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Daryl Moody.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.